Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 43 of the Memorial Memo KSR's Kentucky Women's Basketball Podcast. And episode 43 marks our first preview episode, game preview, that is, for the 2025-26 Kentucky women's basketball season. Of course, this is like the part of the year that I've just been dying for. Like, I like recruiting, I like talking, I like speculating, I like all that. But at the end of the day, man, it's all about, the games. It's about the X's and O's, the wins and losses, and that's what we're finally here to talk about. For me, it's just so refreshing because, I know that, I know now I know what I'm talking about, for one, but it's also just man, it's just so nice to be able to sit here and talk about what's Claire Stratt going to do? Can Kenny Brooks outcoach this coach? Can A, B, whatever. For me, it's just so damn awesome. It's all right. No more offseason. The season is here right now. I want to start with what happened yesterday. If you don't know, Kenny Brooks and the team were available to us, the media, and we kind of heard them talk about just kind of previewing the season and whatnot. Just talk about Morehead State a little bit. I have a few talking points from that. Number one, there's a fellow media member. His name's Brad. Shout out to Brad. He asked Kenny Brooks the question of, will Kentucky play in big-time exhibition games moving forward? Because really starting this year, kind of in men's, well, you saw it in men's a little bit last year too, but I feel like this is the first year where you really kind of see a lot of teams on the men's and women's side playing these big exhibition games. On the women's side, some of the bigger ones like Tennessee, North Carolina, big for different reasons, but Missouri just lost to a D2 team. Now, that's obviously not a big-time exhibition, but I just thought that was funny. Like there's a lot of these NC State and Maryland, they did one. And then on the men's side, of course, for us here at Kentucky, there's the Purdue exhibition, right? You play the number one team in the country, you bring them in. So again, back to Brad, he was like, so, kind of like how the men did, are you going to do these moving forward? And Kenny's response, he didn't leave it up to doubt, no interpretation. Absolutely. That was his answer. And then following that, he says, I think it's trending toward that. I think it's the first year where, kind of like I was just saying, the first year where you see an abundance of exhibitions like that. It sounds like, just from what he was saying, he said we had an opportunity to look into a situation. It fell through. It was late. Sounds like they tried to get some kind of exhibition. I don't know if it was bringing in the number one team in the country, UConn. I don't know if it was anything like that. But I think they were working on an exhibition, just couldn't quite happen. And then, of course, later on, Kenny talked about how he wants to make sure, when they do an exhibition, he wants to be against a good team. He talked about how you see a lot of teams playing exhibitions against maybe Division II, and they win by 100. I don't know how much you get out of that. And then he goes on to reference the men's exhibition, where he says, but I'm sure Coach Pope got a lot out of last week, and I'm sure Coach Painter did too. And then I think later on he even says, yeah, so I think you'll probably see us do something like that next year. We'll get to work on it sooner than we did this past year. So for me, one, that's exciting because I think I've said it here on the podcast. I've said it wherever, but it would be super cool to see Kentucky bring in, like a UConn or however. Oh, I like this. There we go. Shout out to Kevin Hawthorne. Braden Hawthorne by any chance? It says, good evening from Lakeland, Florida. Shout out Kevin Hawthorne, man. From Lakeland, Florida. We love having the audience. The good thing about Big Blue Nation, it's not just Kentucky, it's everywhere. I once had a fan walk up to me. I'm gonna get off on a little tangent because that's what I do on here. I had a fan. I went and covered the Kentucky game at Florida last year, and I had a fan who came up to me and they're like, you could just tell it in their accent, and I don't want to even try to mimic it, but they're like, hey, I love your content. I'm from Wales. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. How in the world, why are you here? Shout out to John Cleaver from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Main thing I know about Chattanooga is my dad He works in the coal industry. He frequents Chattanooga, so that's cool to see. I love this Big Blue Nation just spanning everywhere. But yeah, Amelia Hassett, shout out to her family. I don't know if they still frequent the podcast, but I know they have before. I remember I met them at the SEC tournament last year, and they're like, "Yeah, we love listening to your updates." Of course, Matt G says hello from Louisville. Shout out Louisville. You're the only thing good in that town, unfortunately. Well, actually, Stephen lives in Louisville, so shout out to Stephen. Jacob's also from Louisville. Jack is just outside of Louisville, I'm pretty sure, but not a lot good to say about that city, unfortunately. But back to my talking point. What the hell was I even talking? And then Stephen, of course, says Adam and Nick too. Why do we have so many people in Louisville from KSR? Like, is it cheaper to live there? I wouldn't think so. Like, why do y'all live in Louisville? What are you doing? Regardless, back to the main talking point, which, of course, Steven says it is cheaper than Lexington. There we go. I guess that makes sense. I wouldn't think that because Louisville's bigger, but I mean, I guess I get it. And then Matt says Louisville's the best. Shut up. No, it's not. Forget like the Cardinals. I think that city's just a dump. But anyway, I remember just listening to Kenny talking his press conferences, and I'm going into a new point now, I guess. Or no, I'm not. We'll stick with the exhibition thing. This is what I was talking about. And Kenny was making the point of, we don't want to play these bad teams, and we want to make sure we can get these good teams in next year. And I just thought that was really neat. I'm gonna have to click away from the comments because I cannot focus with you all talking about Bellarmine, for crying out loud. Come on, people. But yeah, it's just interesting to see again. And this is the point that I was making where, imagine if Gino brings in UConn or UCLA or whoever, a team you're not going to play in the regular season, but as a high-profile team. I bet you would definitely fill up, you would definitely fill up Memorial. I bet you could play a game like that in Rupp. Like, you bring UConn to town, you bring a next season a healthy Juju Watkins and USC to town. Like, you do that, and there's just, dude, you can fill up Rep Arena, and I don't think it'd be an issue. Moving on, Kenny Brooks, he talked about his relationship with Tubby Smith, and I thought that was really special because I knew they had met in the summer. I didn't really know what all that necessarily meant. I was like, they ran into each other. Tubby was just in town, but no. Tubby was Kenny Brooks' coaching hero. And now they have a special relationship. That's cool. Dom Perova, who of course recently tore her ACL, stays involved in practice. That's good to see. And then there's kind of some of the takeaways from the actual practice. So I guess I failed to mention that, where we heard from Kenny Brooks and the players. Well, we actually got to watch a bit of practice following that. And I just had a few small takeaways from that. Again, nothing. It's one practice. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to been to half a dozen of them, maybe over the course of the offseason. But with this practice, I thought Kaylin Carroll looked pretty good. We've heard a lot about her offensive ability. I think she's really improving on the defensive end of the floor, which is good because from talking to sources, one of the big things the staff was not worried about, but at least focused on was, okay, can KK defend here? Like, we know she's gifted offensively. Can she defend? And we've still yet to see that totally, right? Like, we won't really know until SEC play, I would say. Or maybe you throw her in against Louisville and Maryland, see how she does in those games. But, excuse me, I just don't know. I just don't know yet. But just from my observations, she doesn't look like she's, struggling mightily on defense. So that's good to see. Asia Boone's jump shot is still the best thing I've ever seen. There's a reason why on last week's episode, I made the prediction of, she's going to be a top 10 3-point shooter in the country. I've heard she shoots really good. I've seen it with my own eyes a few times. Super excited about her. Tony Morgan, just dude, there's about a quick player. There's a difference in being fast and just being quick, if you know what I mean. Tony Morgan, one, she can get up and down the floor pretty fast, but again, I think it's just what makes her such a good driver to the hoop is you just see, she'll be on the perimeter, and then literally it's like one dribble move, two dribble moves, and she's in there for the layup, and you're like, how the hell did she get down there? It's really good stuff. And then I really enjoyed, they had a session where the men's practice players were passing the ball around on the perimeter, kind of feeding it down a little bit, just kind of passing it around. It was practicing defense for the women, obviously. And they made the whole session. I mean, yes, you want to focus on, okay, let's play good man-to-man defense here. But I think the cooler thing about that is, well, the main focus was let's communicate, like let's talk. And again, like I'm sure that's something every coach works on, right? But for me, it was just really cool to kind of see that happen in person, where like Kenny is just super intentional with everything he does, everything he says. And I just thought it was really interesting to watch the team sort of communicate in that aspect. Now, here's the fun part that everyone is really here for: secret scrimmage details. I'll just say from the get-go, first of all, subscribe to KSR Plus, because this dropped on KSR Plus a little bit earlier. I'm going to go into a little bit of extra depth on here. I'm not just going to rinse and repeat what I posted there. So the main thing that I will say between Kentucky and their opponent, which I will now say is Illinois, Big Ten program. They played them, of course, last year in the Music City Classic in Nashville, beat them by 23, if I remember right. I think it was 76-53, if I remember right. The big thing from this one, we call them secret scrimmages nowadays. I feel like someone just started calling them that, and we all ran with it as like a buzzword. It's just a closed scrimmage, like basically an exhibition, kind of, just without the fans and attendance, right? I think the big thing from this game, number one, Kentucky won, right? Kentucky won. From what I've heard, I haven't been given any sort of box score or stat sheet or anything like that, but I've been told Kentucky beat Illinois in the exhibition. There was a good amount of experimenting, right? And I think that's part of why this was closed to fans. But I heard there was a good amount of experimenting with lineups from both teams, but at the same time, the teams were playing to win the game. And of course, at the end of the day, Kentucky ended up winning. I heard Tony Morgan and Clara Strack in particular looked really good. Again, I don't have numbers. I can't tell you this many assists or points or rebounds. But what I can tell you is, again, it sounds like, and it's stuff I've rattled on about, Tony Morgan's ability to drive, I think, kind of caught Illinois off guard, just from what I've heard from a few people. Like, again, I think you can see, like, you have an all ACC point guard. Of course she's going to translate. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying Tony Morgan will be the best point guard in the country, but she's going to be pretty damn close. Like, she's going to be pretty good. And then Clara Strack, again, like, I mean, she was the reigning SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Like, she was going, the thing with Clara Strack, and again, what I've heard, it just sounds like she's just Clara Strack, man. Like, she's getting rebounds, like doing everything you want your big to do. I didn't hear anything about her like expanded 3-point shot or anything like that. I'm not saying she didn't do that kind of thing. But I just know, like, it sounds like it's not like we'll see a regression from Clara Strack. If anything, she should be able to elevate her numbers some. Again, of course, along with that experimenting, I personally heard, and this isn't totally related to the exhibition or the scrimmage, but I think it is to a degree. Asia Boone and Josie Gilvin just continue to be impressive. Of course, Asia, is a tremendous shooter, but Josie is someone that I think the staff, really just people in general, are kind of looking at to be like, okay, Josie, like, can you translate here, right? That's the big word we're using. Of course, she was an all-conference player, all-conference defender at Western Kentucky, but you bring her here, and now it's a matter of, okay, let's see what you do in the SEC, or let's see what you do against a power conference team. I think Josie Gilvin actually performed really well in that scrimmage, if I've heard right. So again, I think I think your big takeaways, and it sucks I don't have a score, stats, or anything like that. If I do come across that, I will definitely share that with you all. But again, to me, it's Kentucky. The big three takeaways, I guess. Kentucky won against Illinois. Like they learned that they are a surefire top 25 team. Like I think they knew that, but okay, now you really figure that out. There was the experimenting with lineups and figuring out the rotation and whatnot. And then, of course, the third takeaway, Claire Strack, Tony Morgan, Asia Boone, Josie Gilvin are four players that I've heard in particular that looked really, really good. Again, I think the thing with these exhibitions is that, or I keep calling it exhibition, which I guess that's, no, not totally, but like these secret scrimmages or whatever, like you're just trying to kind of figure out where you are because you don't know where you are, right? You haven't played anyone yet, so how are you going to know? Illinois is a team that received AP top 25 votes. They didn't make it. I think they might be 26th or 27th. I don't know for certain. They have a really good group of young players. They brought in some good transfers. Like Illinois is a very good team. Again, I would say a borderline top 25 team, but from what I've heard, Kentucky won that game or won that scrimmage. And so you kind of get a good idea, like, okay, this is how good we are right now, or this is how good we can be. So to me, it's exciting, right? Because imagine, like, I remember when I heard this took place on Saturday, and I didn't get a whole lot of details. Like, did we lose? I was like, did we lose to Illinois? Is that what happened? But no, you beat them, and you look pretty good doing it. So I think that's about as much as you can be excited for, kind of heading into the season, right? You beat Illinois, borderline top 25 team. So that's always good to know. I'm going to give a quick shout out to our friends at Roback who, every time I hear or see Roback gear, I'm just like, man, that stuff looks good. I don't remember where it was. I want to say I was at a basketball game. Someone was wearing a Roback shirt, and I was like, you know what? That actually looks nice. Change the game with Roback, a proud partner of KSR. Get the best fit and the best feel with their incredibly comfortable active wear. From polos and quarter zips to shorts and Delta performance pants, you will look good and feel good with Roback. Use promo code KSR for 20% off your first purchase at roback.com. Moving on to kind of what the rest of the episode will be about, which is the Morehead State preview. Again, folks, I'm just super excited for this, right? I've been basically dying to talk about Morehead State because, again, all off season you've spent time about recruiting and are we going to blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Throw it out the window. Morehead State, here we go. Right off the bat, main thing I want to say about Florida State, shout out to their head coach, Ashton Feldhaus, who, okay, as you see in front of me on the screen, right, if you know that last name, you know of Darren Feldhaus, who played here at Kentucky, of course, on the men's side. He is her uncle. So that's obviously cool to see. She was coaching at Missouri Western prior, was really good there. Last season, Morehead State, which they have a completely revamped roster and staff, went 10-20, 5-15 in the OVC. And with this year's roster, 2 of their 12 players are from the United States. Again, I feel like you don't see that a ton, and I don't know if this is an Ashton Feldhaus thing or just kind of how the stars aligned. But yeah, 2 of their 12 players are from the United States. You have players from like England, Ukraine, like literally just all over the place. It's definitely a really interesting team to kind of watch. And then as far as their key players goes, you got Laura Toffoli, who again, a lot of these stats you look at and you're like, oh man, like this team isn't very good. And I'm not saying Morehead State is like world beaters, but you have to remember these kids were at previous stops and whatnot. So 3.5 points per game, almost a rebound per game, 0.6 assists per game. One of their bigger players, Kate DK, I believe she is 6'3", 4.4 points and rebounds per game, averages over a block per game. Landon Forbes, 8.9 points, 4 assists. Pretty good shooter, 36% from 3. And then another guard they have, Maurice Sepp, 12 points, 4.2 rebounds, and 3.5 assists per game. It's really hard to get a gauge on Morehead State because, again, it's one of these, and this is something I asked Kenny about. I was like, well, what do you do for the first game of the season, especially when you get a team who, new head coach, completely new roster. Like, Kenny, how do you scout? Like, what do you do? Do you go look at their tape from when they were at different schools? Do you just try to watch Missouri Western's film from last year? Like, what do you do? And the quote he gave me during that press conference yesterday was, rely on your principles, your philosophies, which obviously I'm not saying he's not going to do any scouting or he hasn't done any scouting, but I think it's just interesting when you get to one of these kinds of games. It's really just like, okay, let's try to do what we do well, and hopefully that results in a win. I find that interesting, and I guess it makes sense. But to me, I'm just like, I just sit and think about like trying to scout an opponent, but you don't have film on them. That's got to be weird. There's a reason why when answering that question, he was like, yeah, I'm a big fan, or he's like, I'm a much bigger fan of the third and fourth games than I am the first and second. So I thought that was neat. But again, Kentucky hosting their first game of the season against Morehead State November 3rd in historic Memorial Coliseum. This is going to be a fun one, right? I think Ashton Feldhouse, she does a fun style of play from what I've seen. Believe it or not, guys, I can't find a ton of Missouri Western film. I know, right? Blame me, I know. But from the little bit I have seen, it looks like a fun style of play. Of course, it's always a cool connection when you play an in-state team. Of course, our uncle Darren Feldhouse, that's obviously cool. It should be a good first game, right? You should be able to see kind of not like Kentucky, like just go out there and warm up basically, but it should be a good, like, all right, get your feet wet kind of situation. Just see who does well, see who doesn't do as well, that kind of thing. What works, what doesn't work. And again, you did that against Illinois in this exhibition, but I mean, the lights will be on. I'll be in the building. You'll be in the building. It's going to be really fun. And if you're not in the building, you'll be watching us on SEC Plus, hopefully. But yeah, I think the main thing to kind of do now is just like sit and wait. Not sit and wait as in like we're not going to do anything till then. But all we can do is wait for the season, right? Of course, we'll be pumping out content and whatnot. But it should be a fun first game. I'm just excited to see this team play. I'm excited to see like Jordan Obi play, who missed all last season. I'm excited to see the transfers come in. KK, freshman, I'm excited to see her. Again, this should be a really good season for Kentucky. There is no reason why they can't go into this season and have a really good year. You know what I mean? There's no reason why they can't come in and start their season 1-0, but be able to use this Morehead State game as, all right, again, let's see where we are. What can we build off of? What else can we do? So, yeah, I think that's about it for this episode. A definitely much shorter one, but at the end of the day, with Morehead State, there's not too much to talk about. There's just not too much to say about the Eagles. Of course, like, comment, subscribe. I think the main thing you all are here for is that secret scrimmage info. And again, the more I hear about that, the more I will continue to relay to you all. But again, with these secret scrimmages or whatever, people are just generally pretty quiet about it. Sometimes you have to go through different avenues than you're used to going. But again, Kentucky won that exhibition, or I say exhibition, that scrimmage. I don't know what the difference is other than fans being there. But Kentucky won that scrimmage. You saw Tony Morgan, Clara Strack, Asia Boone, Josie Gilvin all look pretty good from what I've heard. So that's always exciting. And then, of course, we have Morehead State coming up on Monday. It's, 5 days from now as of this recording? Get your blood pumping, right? Of course, you have the women and on the 3rd and then the men on the 4th. Just super exciting. Actually, you have the men tomorrow at Rep Arena against Georgetown in an exhibition. So, again, we should be able to see Kentucky in one of those too. So that's always fun, or at least the women. So, again, like, comment, subscribe. Do all those wonderful things. As you see in the bottom left, we are at 1,000 subscribers on the KSR YouTube channel. Thank you all so much. Let's keep that number going up. And until next time, let's all just sit here, think about Kentucky women's basketball, think about how we're all going to have a great season. And then after we smack Morehead State, we're going to talk about Kentucky's next opponent, which I believe after that is Monmouth, if I'm correct. So, again, let's all sit here, enjoy this basketball season. Morehead State coming up, Monmouth after that, and so on. But again, until next time, you all take care. Thank you all so much for tuning in.